This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
What is an autoethnography? Essays like the one on this page provide the answer to this question. Introduction. Autoethnography is a research and writing method that uses an autobiographical personal narrative that explores the writer's life experience, reflective of a cultural accounting, through employing features such as concrete action, emotion, embodiment, self-consciousness, and introspection. It totally differs from ethnography, as it uses the researcher's experience instead of other people's beliefs and practices, while the latter uses fieldwork to interview people in order to get their views and narration that is analyzed to get a better understanding of their culture. Autoethnography, apart from revealing personal experiences in relation to some cultural account, presents a platform for questioning cultural aspects generally viewed as appropriate by the vast majority of practitioners of a given practice, such as diagnostic processes. Thus, the involvement of personal aspects can provide valuable insight into issues that are mostly overlooked in culture, such as obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, sexuality, eating disorders, and others. Institutional autoethnography in the diagnosis of OCD presents an opportunity to use knowledge and daily events to accelerate rational and logical reasoning on social transformations needed to change psychiatric oppression. Institutional autoethnography may involve the application of autoethnography and institutional ethnography to understand a given situation. This paper will further look at the understanding of OCD discourse through institutional autoethnography by feminist psychiatric experiences and approach. The words madness and sensemaking are used in this paper severally, and they are used in the following context. Madness is used to refer to the altered states of consciousness to different beliefs, feelings, needs, behaviors that are pathologized by psychiatry, while sense-making refers to both available paradigms for rationalizing madness and alternative, self-determined ways of understanding and living with madness. Understanding of OCD discourse through institutional autoethnography. Institutions are recognized as a way of governance that involves institutional discourses and technologies. People working in a certain institution are guided by institutional practices that bind them to the institutional function. Thus, an institution is mainly a coordination of people through the institution's discursively organized practices in their system. Through institutional autoethnography, we are able to look at how institutions work by coordinating people and involving their organized experiences that entail the reality of their life experiences and own perspectives. The developing part of this paper is more of a personal reflection on the institutional autoethnography of Tam that narrates her personal experiences with mental illness, providing an analysis of the performative aspects of OCD and her feminist standpoint in challenging the OCD discourse. OCD is a genetic disorder triggered by environmental stressors that cause a chemical imbalance in the brain, leading to a biologically altered mental state and leaving the individuals to steer themselves among and between the expected good habits and secret rituals. By evaluating Tam's personal experiences and practices with OCD, we see the need for personality management for people suffering from OCD and pose a challenge to existing perceptions of the OCD discourse. From Tam's encounters with OCD and how the concerned professionals handle it, one is able to gain an insight into the traumatic disorder that relies mainly on communicative practices, as the disease impedes the sufferer's social life. Tam, once a victim and now a critical reflective practitioner of psychiatry, hopes that through her autoethnographic narratives, she can shed light on some of the performances that can use to challenge the OCD discourse and improve understanding of self-embodied performances of the OCD patients through sense-making. Her autoethnographic research and presentation were motivated by the fact that during that period, there was limited or no research by psychiatric survivors that critically challenged the OCD discourse, but there were only alternative studies that focused on new ways of understanding madness based on borderline personality disorder, depression, hearing of voices and schizophrenia. By welcoming such an approach to madness and OCD, she feels that the proper description of this condition is at risk of being diluted or losing its context. Though unique in her approach, she has also chosen to involve the works of other researchers in the analysis of OCD discourse in order to get more insights and testimonies that can justify her research. The feminist element of her work comes from taking a feminist standpoint in regard to socio-economic disparities, colonization, racialization, and the position of disadvantaged women in society. These factors mix, bringing about materialism and economic realities from local to universal settings, hence, personal experiences are vital in portraying world relations. In taking the feminist standpoint, she was able to explain the societal and mental illness situation she had faced, leading to a better understanding of her ideas in relation to social trends and occurrences. Her standpoint tends to be in agreement with other feminist researchers that encourage narratives of liberal ideas that relate to surveillance of issues with gendered divisions in the public-private systems. These divisions further shape the relationship between class and race, making them more pronounced and perceivable. Through expressing self-experiences in a complex setup, she is not just trying to tell about herself in feminine nature, but rather, she is trying to bring out realities, sense-making. These realities, in essence, can provide knowledge and understanding that can lead to social transformations. Throughout her presentation, the main aim is to show how institutions' operations have been standardized through the medicalization of given patterns in habit and given effects of stress, while there is alternate knowledge regarding embodied qualitative experiences that have been wrongly absorbed and twisted by OCD discourse. In this study, she is able to decry the fact that a lot of useful knowledge that has not been institutionally tested is always discarded or treated as of less significance in the treatment of OCD patients. Her experience reveals that some of the downplayed aspects in evaluations and treatment of OCD patients are as important as the standard procedures and observations. Hence, the OCD discourse is quite biased by the institutional coordination practices that specify how the OCD victims should be evaluated, monitored, and their treatment programs. Further, her research aims to unearth the fact that most of the main stakeholders of the body that is charged with the responsibility of determining and modifying OCD discourse lack some relevant experience. This is vividly highlighted in the following argument, that the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM, is articulated by a body of knowledge makers who are not themselves located as having lived experiences with the phenomena described exposes the disembodied, I-less, nature of such a text. By involving sense-making in this situation, she is trying to logically challenge the doctored gaps between OCD discourse and real-life situations that, if appropriately used, can aid in psychiatric evaluations and OCD discourse. In addition, she reveals that, due to a lack of experience, many professional helpers are unable to understand the OCD discourse in a cultural context. Thus, her presentation in summation shows that there is a need for institutions and professional helpers to adopt and understand self-embodied communication practices in handling OCD patients rather than following the OCD discourse only as guided by their institutional practices. Did you like this autoethnography in the diagnosis of OCD sample? To get more works like this one, make sure to check out the free database of academic paper examples at ivpanda.com. You will find thousands of samples for all your study needs, without even having to register.